So it's been a big gray area about the Skyline, with it being on the channel, off the channel, on the channel, off the channel, and then on again. Here it is. It's been sitting here since September, and it is now almost June. Since it blew up last in Toronto, I've just been too mad to even touch it or look at it. Haven't really explained at all what the hell's been going on with this car since we bought it. We tried to film the build series and stuff, but in the midst of filming build series, the car was blowing up, and this problem and that problem, and it just could never ever get any headway with this car. We worked with multiple shops and it never ever worked out. The first time we built it was with Ronin Performance. Opie assembled the engine, everything went good, but the only problems we had was a combination of the end play being set too tight in the crank and our own fault by setting the clutch adjustment way too tight. So in turn, what happened is whenever the clutch was engaging, it was pushing on the crank, causing the crank to ultimately wear out the thrust bearings. And luckily enough, that didn't cause detrimental failure, because I ended up pulling the engine out to do a turbo manifold. And when I pulled it out, I noticed a play in the crankshaft, so we caught it. And then from there, we took it apart, we brought it to another shop, and they reassembled it. And then we just had failure after failure after failure. We spun the bearing 3 times on the engine. It was always a different bearing as well. Nothing but failure. We would get on the dyno, it would tune good, everything would be good, it would pull vacuum, the rings would seat perfectly. Every time the break-in was perfect, beautiful. And then as soon as we would get it on the road and we'd start driving it at all, it would spin a bearing. And it was either spinning cylinder number 1, cylinder number 3, cylinder number 6, and in rotation. Either we have a massive blockage in the block, which I shouldn't have even ran this block after the first failure. That was one of my main mistakes. The line hone potentially not being able to match up with the new crank that we put in it. This thing's been on 3 fucking crankshafts now. And if you guys don't know how much RBs cost, I'm into this car for more money than I'd like to admit, but that is the name of the game, and that's what happens when you get working on these 30-year-old Japanese Nissans. It's over 30 years old now. It's unfortunate. I mean, I've honestly been upset with the car to the point where I haven't been working on it or doing anything with it. It's been so hard to distribute content on this car because it's all about building it and filming the content, and then it blows up. And I know content is content, but when you're blowing up your race car back to back to back, the last thing you want to do is sit down and edit a video about it. And I know that that is content, and that is YouTube, and that is building cars, but as much failure as I've had with this car, that's not building cars. That's just bullshit, bad luck at that point. That being said, this engine is still completely fucked. It's just sitting in here on the hoist all winter, and it's blown up. I don't even know which cylinder spun this time, because I don't give a fuck to care, honestly. It is what it is. So to keep things simplistic, I've decided to stop messing around with fully forged engines for now. We will revisit it with the proper people involved, etc., etc. But we have this thing here. So I bought this engine months and months ago. I plan to hopefully look over this thing. That's what I'm on to next, and make sure everything looks good in the bottom end, and we're gonna leave the bottom end alone. We're gonna keep all the magic inside, and that's what you're supposed to do with these old JDM cars. Unopened stock RB25, and I think we're just gonna throw all the bolt-ons on it and throw it in the car, get a good base tune on it, and hope that it works. I mean, I shouldn't hope that it works. It will work, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna cut this fucking car in half. First off, I didn't even want to build this car through the bottom end when we first got it. We were having ring failure on the bottom end, and that's the only reason this thing got opened up. And then it just kind of snowballed into, you know, CP pistons, NATO H-beam rods, upgraded oil pumps, crank collar extensions, line hones, ARP mains, like just snowballed into a bunch of money, to the point where you would think you would have a solid car. But it clearly didn't end up that way. So now we are sitting here with a bunch of forged parts that are most likely useless. So I don't even care to try and get in here and salvage anything bottom end wise. We're just going to take this engine out and basically put the other one in with all of our bolt-ons, like our front facing intake manifold, our top mount turbo, and our downpipe, our top mount manifold, and all the turbo bits basically, and exhaust, and just throw everything on that block. We'll obviously upgrade the head gaskets, throw the ARPs in there. We'll do an MLS head gasket. It feels like it was one of my dream cars, but now this car is just like tainted from bad luck. Like trailering it all the way across the country to pull it off a trailer and have it spin a bearing. It's pretty gut wrenching, you know. It doesn't really help the fact that Becky's new S13 that we got her for Christmas has spun a bearing as well on idle. So basically what had happened is if you guys seen in the last videos with Becky's S13, we got the car running and it ran decent, but it was like idling and couldn't hold idle under its own power. So what we essentially did was check through everything and found that the timing was off by 2 teeth. So like any normal person would do, we adjusted the timing back to where it should be, and it cratered. So the guy who we bought this car off of said they didn't touch anything in the bottom end, but that is total bullshit. They definitely touched something in the bottom end. Cars just don't spin bearings on idle unless they've been assembled wrong, or you run it on no oil, which the car had oil. Somebody had their stupid paws in the bottom end of this thing, and it's causing bullshit just like that thing caused bullshit, and that's it. So now both these cars need new engines, and we need this done in like 2 weeks, because as typical as it is for us, all the bad things happen in the worst timing. But we overcome, we adapt, we persevere, and welcome to Jump Nissans. Meanwhile, this thing's just sitting here watching me prep its new engine. We've inspected the bottom end, and it honestly looks pretty clean. I had a bit of a mini heart attack at first with some hard RTV sitting in the bottom of the oil pan. I don't see any copper, I don't see any bearing material in this engine at all. I'm gonna rotate it for the first time. I'm gonna feel each rod cap and make sure they all feel up and down good. Play left and right is okay on bearings because those are your tolerances. But up and down, there should be no play at all. Up and down means you have a spun bearing or about to spin bearing. Still here, compression. So we've got a little bit of a change of plans. The engine that we originally had got for the car, I don't really want to run it anymore. I'll show you guys why. Cylinder 1 has a flat spot in it, and then cylinder 6 is really washed out. So if you guys can see all that right here, if you can feel it with your fingernail, it's too much. Well, I can feel it with my thumb. So that's way too much washout for me. So we just found something that has made me lose faith in buying cars off of anybody, ever again. Just took the pressure plate and clutch off,
This one was sticking all the way out, loosey-goosey, but then I just took my hand to the rest of them, and they
Every single one.
Loose.
Just like that. So that may be what we might have been hearing as knock.
But engine's out.
Yeah, and another one's on the way. Maybe she'll have 2 engines.
Bum, bum, bum.
Maybe she'll have 0.
Oh.
Becky's engine is now back into the car and it is running, but it is idling odd. Not sure what's going on with that. All the timing is set correctly, spark is correct, fuel is correct. So all we got to look at now is vacuum. So we're going to smoke test it here in a little bit and see what we can find out. It's kind of hard to vlog everything that's going on in the shop all at once because it's multiple builds and there is one camera and only one me. So we have a friend in the shop. We brought Mr. Fernando, overnighted from Japan. We ran into some issues where the oil pan that we had for the car was wrong. Luckily enough, Fernando had a all-wheel drive oil pan that's been rear-wheel drive converted, so we can run it welded oil pan. Hopefully it holds up.
No leaks.
Dumpster pan.
No guarantees.
Texted him midnight and by 2:30 a.m. he was on his way from Calgary, and then he showed up at my door at 6 a.m. and here we are, rotating assemblies together. I just kind of left him alone, started dealing with other stuff, and next thing I know, we got a rotating assembly, so.
Should hold up, unlike the last 3.
The long block is together with almost all the accessories on it. We're missing some bolts up front and in the back.
Exhaust bolts still being a fun time.
And Becky is wrapping the car. We found the 2 injectors were dead.
Yeah, they may or may not be the issue still, so.
It's still running rough,
dig into that.
but it idles steadier.
Smells like fuel instead of crispy top end. So, as you guys can probably tell, we didn't get the car off the driven. Neither did we get Becky's car off the driven. The father time itself got caught up to us, and we just straight up ran out of time. Got to a point where we were really close with the Skyline, but between mine and Fernando's fatigue, we didn't really care to push it anymore. But driven was good. We got best team again. Always good to get that in our home city. But as for right now, it is next day after driven, and we are going to fire this thing up. Hopefully. Again. There's a lot of air in there.
Update. It's been crazy. We haven't seen the camera in what, 2 days? Half the group already left to go to Vancouver because we've been stuck here with stinky ass Nissans. We haven't been filming much because my ass was in the hospital because I ended up getting a bad tooth infection, but thank you for Mr. Fernando over here.
Where are you?
This man was supposed to go back home 4 days ago, but he knew I was sick and he stayed and he hustled, and holy fucking shit. This car runs. We were literally about to call this car a loss, Becky's S13.
We somehow got this fucking thing running on a single jingle ECU. So that was a single cam ECU in that car this whole time. Another thing the guy did that we bought it off of, thanks buddy if you're watching. Love that for us, just like the flywheel bolts. That was a good treat too. Thank you for that. Had a good fucking laugh. Bought an engine because of it. But yeah, we just got that ECU in and lo and behold, the thing idles.
Just gotta sit base timing. As soon as we set base timing and get it idling properly, we're good to go. At least I hope so.
I'm on so many painkillers right now, I feel like I'm doing somersaults. But we're due to leave in like 3 hours.
3 hours ago.
And we were due to leave about 24 hours ago, but half the group is already up there in Vancouver. They made it safe. Now it's just us stinky Nissan boys stuck down here. So
And girl.
and girl.
No.
You pull his ass out.
Dude, even he knows. I don't fucking trust him.
Oh, it does open.